My name is David Ho, and I am the editor for Mobile, Tablets, and Emerging Technology at the Wall Street Journal. I am the founding editor of the Wall Street Journal's iPad app and tablet edition. I also teach journalism. I teach, as you might expect, mobile and emerging technology journalism at the City University of New York. Despite my title, I need to assure you that I am not some alien from some all-technology planet. I am a storyteller, like many of you. And I've been a journalist for about 20 years, and I've written about all kinds of things. I've written about terrorism, technology, politics. I've even written about dog shows. Before I did most of that, I was a programmer and a designer. I built web news web pages when that was a new thing. And I don't code much these days, but I'm still a technologist, and the work that I do is all about bringing the technology and the journalism together. And that's pretty much what we're all here for today and what I want to talk to you about today. So here's what I have planned for the next 20 minutes or so, really quickly. I will talk to you about why mobile is a big deal, because I know no one has ever told you this before. I have some 5 storytelling tips for you about how to use mobile, how to tell stories for mobile, how to make it work. And then I have some thoughts about the future of news and technology and what comes beyond mobile. So let me dive right in. So mobile's a big deal. This year, there will be more than 7 billion mobile devices in service. That's more mobile devices than people. This is a pretty new number, too, here. 60% of all digital time spent is spent on a mobile device. Now, this is a US number, but it represents a global trend. And for news organizations, many have reached or are approaching the mobile majority. That means more than half of all digital traffic coming from mobile devices. That trend spawns headlines like these. Now, a lot of people are talking about mobile. In newsrooms, I'm sure in your newsroom, a lot of people are shouting about how important mobile is. But not a lot of people really understand it. And I want to help you understand it. So do me a favor. Everybody take out your smartphone. All right? If you don't have a smartphone, you and I need to have a private conversation later. Does everybody have your smartphone out? All right? Unlock it. Everybody good? Everybody good? Unlocked? All right. Hand your phone to the person on your right. Remember to breathe. Take a deep breath. You got to trust me. Okay, take a deep breath. It'll be okay. All right? Now, okay. Does anybody feel a little uncomfortable? Good. Good. Hold on to that feeling. That feeling is important. That feeling is why mobile is important. That feeling is more important than any chart or graph or statistic I can put on that screen. Because that feeling is what it feels like to hand your entire life to a stranger. Because we are our phones. Our phones are us. Our phones are our contacts, our family, our friends. Our phones are our work, the games that we play, the places we shop. All the photos you haven't backed up yet. There's never been a technology this personal, this intimate. And that's why it's so critical that we in the news business get this right. Because when we send news to people on mobile, we're sending it directly into their lives. Okay, you can hand the phone back now. I hope nobody's too traumatized. We're just starting the day here. So, at the Wall Street Journal, We've been at mobile for a long time. We had our first mobile website in 2007, our first mobile app in 2008, and in the years since, a lot has happened. We've had an explosion of activity. We have a whole family of apps and mobile experiences. We have a dedicated team of mobile developers, a dedicated team of mobile editors, really smart, talented people. We have all kinds of things focused on the mobile experience. We have lists, we have immersive stories, graphics, all manner of things. And there's a lot more to come. A major update to our iPad app is coming soon. Now, over the last 5 years doing this work, I've learned a few things, and I want to share some of that with you now. So this is a graphic that ran in print, it ran on the web, it ran on tablets, it ran on smartphones. What's wrong with this? Actual size. There you go. Let me ask you a question. On this screen here, is this knife actual size? Well, if it's not actual size on that screen, is it actual size on this screen? Well, is it actual size on any screen other than in the print newspaper where this graphic was designed to run? This example represents a fundamental conceptual problem that a lot of journalists have a problem with, have a trouble with, especially if they've worked their whole career just in one medium. The one platform world is dead. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. We live in a world of many platforms. When you produce news, it goes everywhere. It goes to print, TV, it goes to the web, it goes to smartphones, it goes to tablets, it goes to aggregators, it goes to atomizers, it goes to smartwatches, it goes to Google Glass. You know, it goes everywhere. No matter what journalism job you do, this matters. It matters a lot because how you tell a story is related to how people consume it. Even the words that you use matter. For example, beware of click here. When you see the phrase click here on your phone, what does that mean exactly? What are you clicking with? There's no mouse. You know, this kind of thing insults the reader because you're telling them this content was not meant for you and your device. It was meant for somebody else and their device. You're just getting a regurgitated version of it. So text in a world of many platforms needs to be platform agnostic. It needs to work everywhere. Speaking of working everywhere, if a graphic doesn't work on a phone, it doesn't work. Now, I bet everybody in this room has seen a graphic that looks really bad on a phone, right? You pinch and you zoom and you can't tap anything. This is a tough challenge, but it's really about the numbers. Do you want more than half of everybody coming to your news to get a crappy experience? Reporters have a stake in this too. You may think it has nothing to do with you, but you know, graphics represent your reporting, the work that you've put into a story. If the graphic is bad, it may turn people away from the work that you've done. At the Wall Street Journal, we're putting a lot of time and effort into getting this right, into making this work, and it's not easy. We're trying to make sure that graphics work across all platforms. For example, this one here about the legacies of World War I. This was designed and thought about with mobile in mind from the very beginning. Which brings me to this. Whatever the project, whether it's a graphic or a big immersive story, you have to think about mobile from the very, very beginning. If mobile is an afterthought to what you're doing, it's bad. Bad things happen. You need to make sure that the right people are involved. You know, whoever it is at your organization, mobile experts, graphic experts, you know, they need to know that there's a project coming. Discuss the media, the navigation, you know, how the content will work when you have different download speeds. One last tip. Now, I bet All of you have heard the phrase, show, don't tell, right? This is like journalism school stuff. I want you to think about feel, don't show. Now, the folks at Google have this analogy where they compare a phone to your senses. They say a phone is an extension of your senses. It sees with its camera, it hears with its microphone, it feels with its touch screen, it has an awareness of its place in space thanks to its accelerometer and its GPS. We now interact with technology in more ways than just with our eyes and our ears. And we can tell stories in more ways too. We're just beginning to scratch the surface with this. Here's an example. So this is a graphic that ran in The Daily. Now, The Daily was an iPad-only publication some time ago. It's no longer with us, but they did some very innovative work with graphics on tablets. Now, this graphic is about a submarine that can go really deep in the ocean. Now, there's nothing interactive about this graphic. It's just a static image. What makes it special is that it's really, really tall. And then when you see it on your iPad, you're only seeing the very top of it. Now, to get to the bottom, you have to swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe until you finally get to the bottom. There's something about the physical interaction, the action of all that swiping, that's very meaningful and very powerful. You know, by doing that, you're like, wow, this is really, really deep. When do I get to the bottom of this thing? There's something meaningful about that experience, more meaningful than just reading about it and even seeing a picture of it. Now, this is part of a concept that I call dimensional storytelling. To paraphrase a movie, we as journalists, our pattern indicates two-dimensional thinking. This doesn't mean that your storytelling is superficial or lacks depth. I mean this literally. For the most part, the stories that we tell are confined to two-dimensional flat surfaces, you know, pieces of paper or screens of some kind. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, with accelerometers, augmented reality, gesture control, voice control, geolocation, all these things, there's a lot that we can do. Despite everything I just said, mobile is not the future. Mobile is the present. Mobile is not coming. Mobile is here, right now. If you are just now ready to welcome mobile into your journalism world, you are not racing out to meet the future. You are playing catch-up. If you don't have a mobile strategy, if you don't have a mobile presence, you're already behind. Yes, it is just like the web all over again. Now, I'm not trying to depress you here. You know, I'm trying to convey a sense of urgency. Because before we know it, mobile will be old news. And the world beyond mobile will be upon us. Now, in the last few years, I've attended a lot of conferences and events about, you know, the future of journalism. And at these events, speakers tend to tick off three things. They say mobile, social, and video, right? Now, the problem I have with this is that I've been attending these events for 5 years now, and I'm still hearing mobile, social, and video. And I feel like my kids in the back of the car on a long trip, you know, like, Daddy, are we there yet? Because this sounds like the present to me. I think you keep hearing this answer because it's a safe one, because no one will debate it. It's a lot easier than trying to make a prediction further than 6 months out. But I'll give it a shot. You want me to? Yeah. You sure? All right, so I will, at great personal risk to myself, I will make a long-term prediction about the future of news and technology. You're absolutely sure you want to hear this, right? Okay. Newspapers will outlast websites. Do I have your attention? Now, before you go crazy and break Twitter, let me explain. Let me tell you what I'm not saying. I am not saying that the miraculous newspaper recovery is on the way. Clearly, digital wins. I'm also not saying that the web is dead. That's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, but it's too simplistic. My statement is about how people consume information, about the pace of digital change, and how technology evolves. So, just like when I had you hand your phone to a stranger, this is to help you think about change in a little different way. Newspapers have been around for about 400 years, and they have a lot of staying power. The people who like them really, really like them. And more, people are beginning to understand something that we at the Journal figured out 4 years ago when we launched our iPad app. A finite, self-contained, non-updating content set still has value. Whether in digital or in print, the concept of the edition still matters, even in a world of nonstop news, especially in a world of nonstop news. I think print will be with us for a very long time. Print books, print newspapers. I'm not saying that decades from now it will be widespread or even successful, but it will exist. It may get to the point where newspapers are like vinyl records, that people desire for the sensory experience, the feel of paper. But does anyone feel this emotionally attached to a website? When you're on your phone all the time, do you feel like this overwhelming sense of nostalgia to be at your desk with your mouse scrolling through something? If newspapers are vinyl records, perhaps websites are CDs, and in a world of streaming music and song downloads, do you miss your CDs? We get so caught up in the disruption of analog that we miss the disruption to digital itself. The longevity of the traditional website concept is less certain than the longevity of print news, because digital is evolving faster. Websites are becoming something else. The signs are there. News consumers are shifting to mobile, no question. The vast majority of mobile data traffic happens via apps, not the web. Mobile web news users skip home pages entirely. They go straight to articles via social and search. Tech companies are focusing on this thing called deep linking. So this is when apps take you to other apps and they bypass the web entirely. Technology is increasingly becoming more personal, contextual, aware of your habits and your behavior. It anticipates you. Interfaces are evolving beyond screens. They're focusing on voice and gesture. And right out there behind the smartphones is the Internet of Things and wearables. And this is a profound change that's about to happen. It's probably sooner than we think. Now, put all this together and you can see what I see. And that's the web is becoming more conduit than destination. A channel that supports other platforms and experiences. Now, this is a long-term change, so don't expect to see it tomorrow. But here are a few things, a few glimpses of what might be next. This is a patent filed by Apple. This is for a 3D hologram display intersected by laser beams. Now, the way this works is that you insert your hands into the display. The lasers detect your movements, and you're able to manipulate the images as if they were real objects. Okay? Now, if this seems familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen one of the Iron Man movies. As an aside, I have noticed that the journalists who have the hardest time adapting to all this change are the ones who have never heard of a TARDIS or a holodeck. Meanwhile, Google is working on this. Forget Google Glass. This is a patent for a smart contact lens with a camera built in. Now, you thought people were distracted before. You think about how many people will be walking into walls when they're texting on their contacts all the time. Speaking of Google, Google has these big long-term projects. Driverless cars, balloons that send internet signals, smart contact lenses. They call these moonshots. Big leaps into an uncertain future. There is a lesson for us here. Journalism needs moonshots. We need to think beyond the next 6 months. Journalism is the art of courageous storytelling. It is in our DNA to be bold. Then why are we so afraid so often of technology? With our stories, we have moonshots. You know, these big stretching moments, exposing atrocities and corruption and surveillance. We need to apply that same boldness to our tools, to our storytelling technology, to the experience of news. It was my privilege to be part of a moment like that. 4 years ago, the Wall Street Journal made a very big bet and went all in with a new, unproven technology. It was called the iPad. 6 of us spent 6 weeks in a locked, secret, windowless room. And we started with a concept. And 6 weeks later, we launched a new news experience that helped define what a news experience could be in the digital world. We can do even better. We can go even further than that. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of innovation in journalism today. Many people are pursuing the next step. I just believe that for the survival of what we do, we need to take more than 1 step at a time. We need to take 5 steps. We need to leap. You know, when we surrender to the notion that the future is unknowable and that we are consigned to follow the innovation of others, that's when we fail. Media outlets don't have the resources of a Google, but we have a lot of smart, talented people, you know, brave people who believe in a mission that's bigger than themselves. You don't have to be at a startup. Just learn about change and let your imagination run wild. You know, I want to figure out the best news alert for a smart contact lens. You know, I want a fact checker for political debates that hovers in front of my eyes in an augmented reality overlay. I want to know if newscasters in a world of 3D holograms will need as much makeup on the back as they get on the front. I want to know, how do you tell the story when the primary interface is an AI voice whispering in your ear? You know, why wait to chase these things? You know, why be at the tail end of change? I understand all about limited resources and budgets, but you know, the only way we'll figure these things out is to try. The only way we'll stop this sort of endless cycle of technology catch-up is to leap ahead, really far ahead. Journalism needs moonshots. That's a story for us to tell, a story for us to show, a story for us to feel. And that's all I got for you today. Thank you very much.